Good afternoon. Glad that we're here for the last session and really what's been a very engaging, very dynamic discussion across the past couple of days. Hope that you've enjoyed it. What we're going to try and do is give you a little bit of perspective on why North Carolina, why we think that this place is a great place to start a business. As several of you are students in the room, and as you're kind of thinking about what comes next, give a little bit of perspectives in terms of why each of these founders has decided to stay in North Carolina or build their business in North Carolina. But there are some challenges as well, and so we'll actually talk about those challenges. As means of introduction, my name is Lawson Carmichael. I'm the founder and managing partner for a venture capital studio, which what that means is we help build companies both with our time and our money, all around in 4 sectors that we think are critical to North Carolina's future. And they've either been critical in the past or they're even more critical as we go forward. And so those are sustainable agriculture and food, sustainable textiles, the whole EV battery value chain, and what we call the blue economy. And so each of these leaders are kind of from one of those different sectors. And so we'll give you a little bit of perspective as to what's going on from each of their industries, but let me allow them to introduce themselves and maybe one of the things that kind of differentiates your company. So maybe you'd like to start. And the microphone's over there. So
can everyone hear me? Joe?
You need the mic.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm Mary Lempres. I'm the CEO and co-founder of ReefCycle. I'm originally from California. I went to UC Berkeley and then moved to New York City to study product design and engineering at the Pratt Institute. And I chose to move here to North Carolina. So that's something for you guys to know about me and my background. And I run ReefCycle. We are a company that really focuses on biomimicry as something that separates us in this space. And we're inspired by nature and how natural organisms like oysters and coral are able to form this incredibly resilient material that can withstand the most brutal environment of the ocean, wave energy and corrosive salt water. And they're built without drawing non-renewable resources from their environment. They use available metal ions in the ocean environment. So what we do is we mimic shell formation using plants. And the byproduct is a material that is a replacement for cement and a new class of cementitious material that has decreased cracking and actually improves marine habitats. And that's ReefCycle. That's what we do and who I am.
So for those of you that weren't here yesterday and maybe didn't hear the news, she's being shy. She actually won the UNC Clean Tech Award for Entrepreneur of the Year. So congrats.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brian?
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Worfolk. I'm the CEO and founder of Lukera Energy. I'm originally from Canada, from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Throughout schooling, I've now been in the U.S. for almost 15 years. I spent time at Stanford, almost 10 years in Oklahoma in the oil and gas industry, but I was working in solar and energy storage while I was there. And then mainly due to family and personal reasons, I found up and we chose to move to North Carolina and to the East Coast. We talk about it really briefly. It's kind of the why leading to Lukera as well. So a couple of years ago, my 1-year-old daughter became very ill. She came down with, got really sick and ended up actually in a Wake Med pediatric intensive care unit, where we spent a very long, challenging week and she was struggling to breathe. Thankfully, she is fine now and recovered, but now has severe asthma, which gets aggravated when there's smoggy conditions or extra pollutants in the air. So from that experience, it really made a shift. Here I'm working in the energy industry, although in solar and batteries, but I had to do, as a father, to do more to create cleaner, healthier air. And so that's what made the shift from industry to Lukera. And so Lukera Energy is focused on tackling methane emissions. Methane emissions are about 30 times more impactful to global warming compared to CO2. It's great that there's more solutions going out there for CO2 utilization and capture, but we still have methane to worry about. And so we're looking at capturing methane from flaring, biogas, stranded methane, and converting that into a sustainable marine fuel called green methanol. Our process, which we developed ourselves, has 10 times the energy efficiency compared to the petrochemical industry way of making methanol. So anytime you have energy efficiency, it allows us to really move the needle on cost. So we're about half the cost where the energy industry makes methanol today, and looking to decarbonize and disrupt the heavy fuel industry for shipping.
Taylor?
Everyone. Thanks, Lawson, for just inviting me to be a part of this panel, and everybody at the end of the event. So appreciate your time being here. My name's Taylor Shropshire. I am a founding member of Fathom Science. Fathom Science is an ocean forecasting and marine data analytics company. The company was founded by a group of researchers in the oceanography department at NC State University. So we're, kind of local representative of what can be done here. As kind of my more personal story, I got my undergrad at did my undergrad at NC State University, got my bachelor's in marine science, went to get my PhD in oceanography at Florida State University, and as a postdoc, something that kind of started to eat at me is that research is great, and furthering the body of knowledge is a noble task and goal. But at the end of the day, a lot of times research gets stuck, right, in these publications, and it gets stuck in academia. For me, I had a hunger for more practical applications that would actually make an impact. So Fathom Science was really an amazing kind of segue for me to transition from this kind of really strong focus into academia, more towards industry solutions, but still being able to do all the great ocean modeling research that I basically been trained to do. So that's kind of a little bit my story. I'd say to answer your question, Lawson, kind of what makes us different. If you think about, I guess, the ocean versus weather, it's so much easier to collect weather observations than it is the ocean. You have to take a ship out, you have to put buoys in and manage them. So the ocean just has far less observations and measurements, and that's why predictive modeling forecasts are so valuable. So as far as what really makes us different is we do something called met ocean forecasting, coupled meteorological and ocean forecasting. And it may seem obvious that the ocean influences the weather and the weather influences the ocean, but historically running two models at the same time, an ocean model and an atmosphere model, was just too computationally expensive. But now with AI and with cloud computing, it's really opening the possibilities for this type of modeling. And we see a huge potential for providing quality ocean information to a variety of industries like maritime, insurance, offshore platforms, that sort of thing. So I'm glad to be here and answer any questions.
That's great. So maybe pivoting a little bit, two of you at least have made the decision to relocate here and to start your businesses here. And Taylor, you've ultimately decided after going to grad school to come back here and to start a company here. Maybe a little bit, let's dive into why North Carolina. Like why did you had all these different places that you could have been. You've been in Cal Berkeley, you've been in Oklahoma, you were in Florida, for example. Why did you choose North Carolina? And maybe what in your mind sort of led to why North Carolina around that? Mary, maybe we can start with you.
The trees are great here, but for strategic reasons, we were in New York City. We had strong partnerships for piloting in New York City. Our initial partnership there was a reef restoration organization called the Billion Oyster Project that we were working with. But looking at scaling operations in New York versus what we can achieve here in North Carolina, there was a huge advantage to being in a place with so many academic centers and the ability to partner with different researchers here, as well as to recruit and work with young talent coming out of the universities. And a dollar goes a lot further in North Carolina than it does in New York City. So coming here, we were still able to participate in global accelerators and to have the networking and exposure of a global audience while being able to be in a space where we can really develop and research our technology and have the support to do so.
Those that are here would say that the housing market is starting to get more expensive over the last couple of years. So, Brian, maybe from your perspective, you moved a little while ago, but what was sort of behind that decision? And
Yeah, so it's like I mentioned, it was a family personal reason at first. And I knew coming from industry, I wanted to get out and to have bigger impact. I know I have only so many years of my life to get out there and have an impact. And there's a bit of a glass ceiling in industry of like bringing new innovations to market. So it was mainly due to family reasons that we chose North Carolina. And I'll just be completely honest and transparent here because it's making it more interesting. At first, I was really scared and was looking around the ecosystem. I saw lots of ag, pharma, bio. The Triangle had a lot of great resources, but I was really like, my whole background, solar batteries, clean tech, climate tech, and there wasn't much there. I got here about 3 years ago, and there was some companies starting to come up a little bit, but yeah. Now, in the last 3 years, what I've seen is tremendous announcements in the battery sector, the semiconducting sector, and a lot of this industrial manufacturing. And I've lived here, been able to see some of the traditional industries that are here and still operating really well. Some of the chemicals, the pharmaceuticals, which has a lot to do with the chemical industry as well, the textile industry. And so the more what first met my eyes didn't seem very exciting and made me very nervous. But the more that I live here, there's a lot of industry and amazing talent. I haven't had too much of an opportunity to engage with UNC Chapel Hill students yet, but Duke and NC State have been amazing. I'm working with 10 Duke interns at this point, and just being able to have access to the young minds, to be able to work with them on a daily basis is fantastic. And so I was a little bit nervous coming here, but now since I'm being here, the climate ecosystem is definitely developing, expanding, and I personally really love the talent base of which is here in the Triangle.
That's great. Taylor?
Yeah, so I would say the decision was a little bit made for me because, being at NC State, as far as like where we could have started the company, it was just that's where it naturally kind of sprung out from. But I think there's no way you can doubt to recognize kind of what Brian's mentioning, which there's just great talent in this region. You have these amazing universities that just prepare students to go into these really cool, innovative companies. So for us, we really want to stay here. We want to stay at NC State, be very closely attached to them because we can recruit talent directly from the university. One of the co-founders, our president, is still a professor at NC State University. So I think as long as the university is supportive, which NC State has been tremendously supportive, and it's not like this really tense, kind of negotiation. It's more they want to see startups succeed. That's why I think this area can be great if you can really leverage those universities and have their kind of support. This is a fantastic area to build a company.
Yeah, so at least two different things that I heard. One was around cost, right? Second was around talent. I do think that there's a theme that I've continued to hear across these past couple of days as well about the advanced manufacturing capability that exists across the state to leverage into that talent. And then for those of you that don't know, I personally think that we're pretty humble citizens and citizens here. There's a lot of things that are going on, whether it's the National Science Foundation textile innovation engine, whether it's big corporates like Toyota putting in a $16 billion plant here, Wolfspeed investing from a silicon carbide and the U.S. Agencies there. And so winning the Bezos $30 million alternative protein center here, right? I mean, most of us can't connect all those dots, right? But outsiders see the significant opportunity that exists as well. That being said, my guess is that there's probably some challenges that exist as well, right? Not everything's exactly rosy. What are maybe some of the things that you're struggling with at the same time? Maybe Taylor, we can start down at that end and get a little bit of a perspective from you from that.
Yeah, I mean, with the challenges, if you have great talent in the area, there's also, opportunity for more competition, I guess. You could highlight that as a potential challenge. For us, we've got most of our funding's been non-dilutive through large grants. So kind of our next challenge is really to pursue those larger funding opportunities. And the East Coast, doesn't maybe get the same rep that California does and Silicon Valley. So I think, that's probably across the board is kind of a challenge. We're maybe going to run into some of these more bigger challenges as we start to grow. I think they could kind of come up more, but as a fairly young startup, we've kind of just nestled into our area, and I think the main challenge is just the funding landscape, which is an easy answer, but it's definitely the truth.
Brian, what about from your perspective?
Yeah, I can say money, but instead of focusing on money, I can focus on another one, which seems a little bit interesting. So I just spent, 1 year in Silicon Valley, and there the large corporates are on campus hounding students like crazy at Stanford. And it's really easy if I wanted to talk to HP, anyone from the major companies there, Facebook, Meta, they're all over campus. Here, I find a little bit more, so we're a little bit more spread out across the whole state and a little bit more isolated. So as a startup perspective, I want to be able to demonstrate, show some traction. Ideally, I want to be able to show that I can build out a value chain in North Carolina. And sometimes you hear about maybe investors or VCs ghosting you, which definitely happens. I'm sure we've all maybe experienced that. But I've also experienced that corporates ghosting you as well, that you would maybe meet them in person and seem really excited about the opportunity, and you send several emails back and forth, and you just can't get anything going. And I know people are really busy, but I guess the point is that on the large corporates are really a little bit more isolated here, and it's finding ways, I guess like the summit, being able to bring people together, bring corporates together with students and startups to start these conversations, getting people away from their day-to-day jobs where they're maybe too busy to think about things outside of their daily workforce. So I think maybe on the customer side, finding ways to bring large corporates together to support brand new ideas and startups to help build ecosystems and value chains together to help me and my other startups to begin to show some traction in the area, and how we could really build this company in North Carolina and actually have it stay here as well.
Back off of that, actually, just to kind of add to this, I think something that we experienced that has been a challenge that we were able to work through is this location gap between angel pre-seed and Series A, where once you have gone through the initial customer acquisition, initial series of fundraising to get to the point where you're ready to scale up, there's so much capacity here in North Carolina, and there's an incredible opportunity to bring green manufacturing jobs here. But they're coming here, the initial gap I saw, which we're on the other side of it, but it was scary at first, was how to get there, to go through the technical vetting stage without having a clear academic connection here. Where being from the Bay Area, having lived in New York City, there were numerous accelerator spaces where you could work out of a wet lab and be right in the middle of the city and be able to have investors and corporate partners come in and out of your space. And first coming here, a gap I saw and a challenge was that there wasn't really that space for technical validation and vetting. We really rely on academic institutes here to meet that need. There isn't quite the venture-backed or grant-based program that is free from the strain of university IP programs where you can develop technology specifically for venture purposes.
So maybe to that point that both Brian, you and Mary were hitting on, there's the role of kind of each of the different players, academia, accelerators, nonprofits, corporates, et cetera. What would you like to see different, right? I mean, here to help move with greater speed in terms of moving your company along? What would you like to see?
NCSU is doing so many amazing things. Like, I mean, with the Bezos Foundation, I just visited recently their plant sciences program, and they have this incredible lab-based program for alumni and licensing technologies where you're in this community-based space. You're able to go through a lot of the angel pre-seed validation that you need to go through to get initial customers. And I think if there were more spaces that could exist at this intersection between academics and industry, it would really help students that are graduating from these amazing universities and also people who are relocating here to take technology and build commercialization strategies before needing to go after major funds.
I can say what Lawson and Mark are building is also really important. The last year or so, I spent my time with a national venture studio accelerator. I was one of 5 startups that got in across the US, and it gave funding. So the minute the company was formed, we had some initial funding, VC and CVC funding, which was fantastic and probably pretty rare. And then 1 year of mentorship, business support, guiding us through the whole process. And so that's been really helpful to really launch Lukera to where it's at today. And so what Lawson and Mark are building, kind of a venture studio model, is super helpful too, to kind of fill that gap what Mary was talking about, to come in and maybe there's a shared facility where multiple clean tech labs can collaborate together. I know one challenge that we have, like right now in this moment, is where we have a lab process. We've actually filed our first patent yesterday, and we're generating methanol. Thank you. It's a big deal to go through the whole process and be able to file your IP. But at this point, we can't afford it's called a gas, a GC. So it's a way to detect how much methanol that you've actually formed and the different byproducts. And so we're looking to collaborate and to try to track this down. There's lots of people that can perform GC. I was getting quotes for over $5,000 to run 15 samples last week. And so, having some shared facilities of, common things that a lot of startups need, especially in the clean tech, climate tech space, as well as that mentorship, connection to corporates, like I mentioned, kind of trying to build out that value chain. So I really believe in what Lawson and Mark are trying to build together here. I think it would be fantastic support both to the universities, startups, and then startups like mine that we're kind of generating our own IP right from the very beginning.
I'll buy you the beer later. So thanks for that. So, Taylor, maybe you might have a little bit of a different perspective being on NC State's campus and having access to capabilities that are there. But what from your perspective?
Yeah, I guess what I would like to see more of in this area, and I don't know exactly what's being done at UNC and Duke and other universities, but even at NC State, let's push the gas a little harder of having like the Chancellor Innovation Fund. There's like startup capital that the university sets aside, and basically, at least at NC State, I can't speak to UNC and Duke what exists now, but at NC State, the Chancellor Innovation Fund basically had this pot of money and allowed professors, if they had an idea, or students, to submit an idea and then potentially get 50 to 100K of startup capital, and that's what started our company. So I think it'd be really, really exciting to see if universities really kind of leaned into that and were just accelerated startup Earths, more often.
So let's pivot now just a little bit. Brian, one of the things that we talked about maybe 2 weeks ago or so, and a lot can happen in 2 weeks, was a little bit around the uncertainty that's going on in the markets, the administration's sort of perspective on words and words around climate and clean tech and favorability or lack of favorability around some of those words. Each of you have started a company or part of a company that has this value behind it that I think each of you are committed to. How is the current economic and sort of macro environment impacting that, and how you talk about your company, how you position your company, how you're out with investors? Is it changing it? How is it changing it? What's it making you think about and do differently? Maybe Brian, we could start with you.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I started Lukera to create healthier, cleaner air for everyone, especially for my daughter Isabella. And so mid-January, of course we knew the new president was coming in. I was working on a ARPA-E grant. And as the new buzzwords and words that we were not able to use, there was a list of words that were circulated. I'm not sure if you've seen them, but words that should not be in grants anymore. We spent a lot of time ripping this grant application apart to the point now where I was just told to hold on submitting it until kind of more things get settled out. And so at this point, I haven't submitted that grant yet. It was going to be for $500,000. A lot of interest from the program office to really get that going. And so there's definitely been a lot of changes there. At the end of the day, so the last year or so, I vetted many different technologies. I think I've done over 30 techno-economic analysis, which is like trying to understand the basic economics of different technologies. And so my fundamental landscape was trying to find a technology that didn't require a green premium in order to really get to market. And so it's a lot of challenges with green hydrogen, a lot of green fuels, is that you can produce them with green electrons, which is great for the environment, but they're actually more energy intensive. And so my scope was like really difficult to try to find something that was more energy efficient, which had the chance of really moving the needle on cost. And so at Lukera, I believe we have that, at least at this stage. Things, as we scale up and move to a larger scale and pilots, we have to validate those economics at every stage. But having a business that can reduce the price, make things, Victoria from Gigascale was here earlier yesterday. I was talking about trying to make things that are cheaper, better, faster, things like that, without having to pay any kind of premium. And so being able to focus your business on bringing a new product to market, which has efficiencies, which is just inherently better than how the industry does it today. And oh, by the way, it's green and it's a carbon negative fuel. We're gonna help create cleaner, healthier air as well. So it's really just kind of shifting the value proposition a little bit for Lukera. But my main mission is we're a climate company. We're here to clean the air, to get government grants. We're going to talk about our energy independence and how we can provide low-cost, affordable energy to America. But my ultimate goal, and what I always kind of go back to, is that we're a climate company and we're here to help make healthier, cleaner air for everyone. So not abandoning it, but still trying to move forward and change some of the value propositions a little bit.
Flexibility.
Yeah, flexibility.
We're tap dancing one or the other. I mean, so Taylor, maybe from your perspective?
Yeah, definitely would say, you can maintain your identity as a climate tech company, but like with any business, you have to be strategic and to adapt. Like this won't be the first hiccup, if you're running a company for a long time. So you have to find, ways to use your technology to serve as many needs as possible. That's how you run a successful business. So from Fathom Science side, I would say one of the major changes that we've had to pivot away from is definitely offshore wind. There just seems to be a lot less opportunity there. But that doesn't mean that that's gone forever. That just means that the priorities change slightly, maybe towards, now for us at least, towards more ports and shipping. But that's not going away. And so it's just really reprioritizing what you're mainly focusing on. But I would say that the core of our identity is the same. And it's just being strategic with what's in front of you. I just think that's an important lesson for anybody to start a company. You're going to have hiccups. You're going to have to pivot. It doesn't mean that you're not being true to kind of your initial goal. It's just how do you accomplish it the most strategic way.
I like that about be true to self. So that's good. Mary, maybe perspective or thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree with both of you. Climate change isn't going away. It's always going to be our top priority. And there's going to be a time when the industry is going to have to transition to clean technology. But kind of what we do from here till then can be strategic to get us there. Thinking about grant applications and how we're presenting our technology. At ReefCycle, we are producing a mineral that's a critical commodity for construction, built environment, infrastructure, and we're doing it without mining or fossil fuels, and we can do it locally and decentralized. So in terms of how we present that solution, it is a solution that can be produced locally, that does not require global supply chains, and that is in the best interest of our security as a nation to be able to produce commodities on shore. So the goal is still the same, but we have had to strategically look at how we talk about what we're doing and who we're talking to.
Yeah, that national security, jobs, competitiveness certainly are key themes that have been coming across the past 2 days of the meeting. We're going to go through 2 more questions that I'm going to ask the panelists, so be thinking about any questions that you might have. We're going to pivot a little bit once again. You're now a magician. You've got one thing that you can change, right, with regard to North Carolina and kind of what keeps you here, what works. What would that wish be, and what would you maybe put into place? Brian looks like he's ready to answer.
I'm ready for this one. Yes. So throughout the last year, I've had requests to move to Colorado, back to Oklahoma, Texas, New York, California, all these other states, for a few different reasons. There's lots of grant programs, government grants at the state level, so state government grants of programs that are attracting clean tech entrepreneurs to go build companies in these different locations. And so it's difficult sometimes. My wife is a master's student at NC State, so I'm literally not going anywhere until she graduates, and hopefully we're still staying here. But to turn down, say, $100,000 from Colorado when we're kind of just getting going, that's because we've been accepted into some program, or the people want us to apply to this program where Colorado State's going to give us money to build these labs and facilities and really try to get off the ground. And so there's definitely a gap that I see in North Carolina with providing some grant funding to entrepreneurs. I do know that there's NC Innovates program is now out. They're really focused on translating university research and slowly building that program out. I'm actually lucky to be an entrepreneur in residence supporting a lithium extraction company through that program. But startups is really not on their radar right now. More so gets focused on that university innovation. So I have my magic wand, one wish. I would say that NC Innovates opens up a grant program or some program to support clean tech startups in the area to get off the ground and to be able to hire more people, to have a more lasting foundation built in North Carolina. Because it's competitive out there, and it's easy to just kind of pick up and go move to another location. And so I think that would make North Carolina more competitive and be able to potentially attract other startups that have key focus areas that align with North Carolina as well.
Taylor, I see you nodding your head a little bit. It looks like you've got your wand going here.
Yeah, no, I would love to be a magician. This might seem like a really simple answer, but like more events like this, I mean, this is really inspirational to see all these people come from all over the world to come to, this event here. I mean, that shows some significance of this area. And I think, having other universities do something very similar to this, like I would say NC State, might be great at the supporting startups. Maybe they're behind as far as like putting on events like this. So it would be really cool to see more events like this throughout the year that really just bring together a lot of different companies that are focused on blue tech, climate tech in this area. Students, it's amazing to have here as well because it just shows a lot of passion. So that would be my one wish, I guess, right now.
That's great. Mary?
World peace. Yeah, if I had one wish.
That'll be done by the end of the day. So
yeah, we're figuring it out today, right, guys? Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think something that I've thought a lot about in terms of at this specific stage for ReefCycle, what would be the most catalyzing asset for us. And I think having a program like Activate be located here, I don't know if you guys have heard of Activate. It's a DoD funded program. Their locations are in Berkeley, Houston, New York City, and I think that's the main 3 locations. And then they have like a anywhere bracket, but it's really competitive to get into that bracket, and it has limitations. And what they do is they provide early stage founders or even just technical people with an idea. They will provide you with a salary that's a competitive salary, a lab space in this communal wet labs environment. None of it's dilutive, and then $100K a year to support you for 2 years. And you're partnered with national labs in the area. So you have Brookhaven in New York City, you have Lawrence Livermore in the Bay Area, and you're able to work and use instrumentation out of the national labs. You're able to work out of these facilities, and you're able to spend 2 years exploring an impactful idea without taking on dilutive capital and without committing yet to building a company. You do not have to have a company at this stage. And I think it's a really incredible grant-funded program that really helps take technical vision into reality and really focuses on commercialization and business modeling. And I think if we all submit letters right now to Activate, maybe they'll open an office here. But I do think a program like that would be really beneficial to the RTP region.
Well, the good news is I think all 3 of those different ideas are actually fairly within reach. And so that's great. We've got a bunch of different, what looks to be students in the audience, at least from the 6 of you that are in here. So maybe a little bit of a word of advice, a parting word of advice on as they think about what comes next in their career or that first career step. Each of you have sort of been there in your own journeys. What word of advice would you give to them as they sort of figure out what's next? Taylor, maybe we can start with you.
First. Hello? Yep. So I guess I'll answer that in 2 parts. One will be for advice for starting a company. I'll reiterate my point of diversity in your business model. It's exciting to think about solving climate, and definitely should pursue that. But it needs to be greater than that. You need to think about, creating a service, right, that is really useful and valuable to other companies or other people. So you can't lose sight of that. That needs to be core to how you're thinking about forming a business. As far as if you're not starting a company, which is perfectly fine as well. I think starting a company, sometimes it doesn't have great work-life balance, and so you have to think about, what you value. It can, but it also can be really challenging. So if you're not going to start your own company, I would just say that before you to pursue higher education, make sure that you have a kind of an understanding of the landscape of where you want to be employed. I think a lot of times, in my experience, PhDs or even myself coming out of out of a postdoc, you you finish, and then you're like, all right, now what? Now what? So it's just really important to be networking while you're in school. I know you've probably heard this before, but I'll just keep saying that it's really important to have an idea where you're going, even while you're pursuing higher education or before you take that next step.
Let me just echo. I thought that one of your very first points was spot on. Not that, well, all of your points were spot on, but specifically, if I also gave just a little bit of perspective, know your customer, right? Really get to know your customer, what their needs are, and laser focus on that. Because if you just think that it's the coolest thing ever and the market's going to come, it's not. And so know your customer.
Yeah, Steve Jobs was wrong with that one. That if you build it, they will come. Something that I actually heard this morning from my sister that I've been dwelling on and I really like is this idea of no wasted time. I think coming out of school, I felt like I really had to hit the pavement and immediately feel like I was succeeding and doing the thing I wanted to do. And even running a startup, it's scary and you're like, am I doing the wrong thing? Is it going to fail? And I really liked hearing this expression of no wasted time, that, putting energy into something is a positive thing. And no matter where it goes, you're learning and growing and making a difference, and you'll take it with you to the next thing. So I think for you students, I wish I had heard that a while ago and I just heard it today.
I do too. Right.
No wasted time.
No wasted time. That's great. Brian.
Yes, with students that are graduating now and maybe entering what I hear from is a little more challenging job market. If you have any kind of hunch that you might want to start a startup or get into the area, do it. Get out there and do it. You're going to learn so much about yourself. Lots of ups and downs and challenges. Of course, take the advice of Lawson. Get to know your customer. Focus on a problem that's real, that really needs to be solved. It has a major impact. But one thing from the last year or so is that I've never had so much failure in my life than my 10 years working in industry. I've had pitches to the CEO, to the board of directors, but before you get there, your messaging is perfected by all this practicing. So I've never really heard no in industry. But as a startup entrepreneur, especially now that I'm fundraising, you hear no all the time. And you just get used to it, and that's not necessarily failure. You're pivoting from that, but I've had multiple pivots the last year, from green hydrogen to ammonia to now green methanol, really getting the good lay of the landscape of all the green fuels out there. But I guess being resilient and not being afraid to fail. You learn so much when you fail and you pivot. Just to be completely open and honest, there's been times where I've reflected and maybe I should just get a job. Because I'm a father, I have 2 kids. My wife's in grad school, and that's not easy to do on an entrepreneur salary, if there is a salary there. And so it's been really challenging at times to go through these pivots, to go through some of those down moments. But I've learned so much more about myself in the last year and being able to go through that and manage that than my previous 10 years in industry. So don't be afraid to fail.
Good advice from the 3 panelists. We've got a few more minutes. If in fact there are any questions from the audience, we've got microphones that can be passed around so that everybody can hear. Anything top of mind, maybe for anyone specific, if you could in fact direct it?
Thank you all for coming and speaking with us today. Just curious, this is for all 3 of the panelists. Noticed that all of your companies relate in some way to the ocean or marine science. I was wondering, how can we leverage North Carolina's coastline and coastal communities to help build the startup space, not just in the Triangle, but along North Carolina's coastline?
Taylor, you want to maybe?
Yeah, quick word on that. On the coastline, I mean, there's some pretty amazing marine science institutes from the university side, right? So you have in Morehead City, you have the Duke Marine Lab there, you have the UNC, you have the NC State one as well. So I think that, that is a fertile ground, and you don't necessarily have to be a researcher at the university to approach professors with ideas, with collaboration. They're looking to bring in funding as well. And oftentimes it's when you submit a proposal, I think it looks, it's competitive when you have academia working alongside some industry or kind of real world application. So that would be my answer, is to look into those institutions on the coast. There's also one associated with ECU. Those are great resources, I would say.
One thing I didn't mention about the Lukera process is that one of the feedstocks is actually seawater. And so we are literally focused on those coastal locations as our feedstock. We need to be close to the ocean. We don't want to be it doesn't make no sense to be transporting seawater inland. And so we're focused at different sites. I mean, there's a port in Wilmington, and trying to better understand that and to engage with them to see if they're even interested in that. It's not a major U.S. port by any means, but there's a port there, and they're looking to grow and to actually expand. And so trying to better understand them as a potential use case and potential customer, and the different ships that do come in there, and if they do need methanol to be able to set up some of those initial pilots. But we're trying to co-locate as much of our value chain as possible. And so, we're trying to find those greenhouse gas emissions in coastal areas that we're also really close to the sea, so we can use our actual seawater as well.
We're running a number of international pilot projects right now with different organizations, and a challenge we've faced is surveying and actually receiving accurate information from those different pilot trials. And so it's been a huge asset to be able to connect with the coastlines here, where we're able to work with familiar academic institutions and really have regular interaction with the different partners that we're working with to trial in the coastal regions here in North Carolina, where we're able to conduct research and field work here in a way that we can't do with international partnerships, where we just don't have visibility into everything that's happening. And so that's been a huge asset for us. We've also partnered with Brian as well. We are working together, or working with a group of students at Duke to do customer discovery and more like user-centered research with coastal communities too. So it's been great to be able to have, through academic connections, these connections to local community and research groups along the coastline, both to understand our customer, but also to be able to conduct field work.
It's a pretty significant asset that we have down at the coast, right? If you just look at the Beaufort, Morehead City community, Taylor's Point, right? ECU, UNC, Duke, NC State, NOAA, right? All have major hubs. How do we sort of better connect that ecosystem into the RTP ecosystem? My partner, who's in the room, often calls it a blue dumbbell, right? I mean, how do we connect those two markets better together to drive innovation in a very different way? I saw a question over here, please.
Yeah, hi, my name is Ellie Goldstein. I'm a sophomore right now here at UNC. And I guess my question for you guys is, you are all like leaders or founders or like heads in your organization. So I guess like you guys mentioned a lot of things that are happening like externally, but I guess like when asserting yourself as a leader and kind of starting your own like organization or like leading an organization, what strategies have you used to assert yourself as a leader and I guess be recognized on a public level as well as credible and good at what you do when it's brand new and nobody's ever heard of what you've done before? Thank you.
Interesting question. So
I can hop in.
All
And
right.
just want to say, like, as a woman, there's a whole other layer to that too. I think as a leader within my team, something I really prioritize is empowering others, and having people feel like they can be leaders within a company. Especially at an early stage, there's a lot of people that want to help, and you don't have all the resources to pay everyone. So the more you can have people feel empowered to be part of your team and support you as partners, there's a lot more you can achieve. And power in numbers. So internally, empowering others has been really important to my strategy as a leader. Externally, something that has been really validating is having ReefCycle and myself receive awards from larger organizations. So we just finished an accelerator with the Biomimicry Institute, and they are leaders in leveraging science, biology, and taking strategies from nature and turning it into technology and being recognized by them. IDEO, MIT's Clean Tech or whatever, something climate challenge. There's a couple other ones, but just going through these accelerator programs have been incredibly empowering as a leader, but also have really helped to validate our technology and to validate my leadership too.
I can say that's something that I struggle with at this time and still. In industry, I led teams of over 20 people, and it was easy to feel as a leader and to assert yourself as a leader in those situations. So even with that experience and then coming to create a startup, it still doesn't feel like I'm an entrepreneur. It's starting to come together. We have a lab in Carborough, getting some employees together, starting to work with interns. For me, which helps is being able to interact with people. I think moving from industry to now the 1 year of really trying to get things going, I was in a virtual cohort and accelerator, but having kind of that face-to-face interaction and employees who believe in your mission and are in the lab trying to make improvements to your process, be able to file patents on it together. So those are some of the milestones for me as I go through it. But even to this point, it doesn't seem real. To my kids, it doesn't seem real as well. They're really impressed that daddy can get dressed up because if I'm working at my home office, for example, I wouldn't be wearing a suit unless I'm talking to investors. And so it's a transition, and I guess with the roller coaster ride of being an entrepreneur, on the downtimes, I don't feel like a leader, and I don't feel like a leader like I was in industry. And so slowly building up over time, building that confidence in yourself that you got this, that you are an entrepreneur and that you can make an impact has been important. But it's a long ride.
Maybe just a personal reflection. I think a superpower that you could use is the spirit of curiosity, right? I mean, the most amazing thing about North Carolina, in my opinion, is people's willingness to help and people's willingness to step in. And so I wouldn't worry about the fact that you don't know it all yet. I just ask tons of questions, and people will go out of their way to actually help you. And you will learn so much from that. I mean, I met each of these individuals that are up here and asked the most stupid questions that you can imagine just because you want to learn. And so use that as your superpower. Hold on, she'll bring a mic over to you.
So I don't know if this has been mentioned before, but you guys all seem to be very much like technology based and have backgrounds in STEM. Would you say maybe having a business major or maybe having an experience in business would have made your startup company easier to start up and then just continue on as a business going forth?
Say a few words to that. So, when we started Fathom Science, it's a core of academic researchers, that are researchers and that don't have business experience. And so it's extremely important to have that portion of the business also. And we've recently been focusing more on that. We've had a new hire who's an MBA doing that biz dev kind of focus. So you need both parts, because if you're, a bunch of researchers trying to make it out there in the business world, is very different. So it's an extremely valuable asset to have as a company. So you don't have to have a STEM background to to make a big impact in some of these small startup companies. Sometimes you can come alongside, they have great technology, and you say, I'm going to help get this to market. You know, that piece right there is maybe as significant as developing the technology itself, because otherwise it gets stuck right in academia, or it never makes it out. And it's extremely important.
I say that with my business, I've supplemented it with interns. So we have business interns working at Lukera right now. And our advisory board today are all past executives of kind of the first generation of climate tech companies. And so they kind of have that business experience and kind of done it, failed. Most of the companies are still actually running as well, which is really good. So it's really knowing your skills on the team and being able to implement that, know where your gaps and deficiencies are, and then being able to hire in either with co-founders, interns, staff, employees, or your advisory board.
I think I saw one last question maybe we can do, because we've got 2 minutes left before the job fair, I think. So.
Hi, I'm Edem Adokonu. Talking about the ecosystem around here, right? We've heard you talk about the shoreline, the ocean factoring into your business. We've talked about the people here being very willing to help. We talked about all the academic institutions here that sort of foster that startup ecosystem here. We've had a few cons like state funding being absent and whatnot, but I wanted to hear about the industries that do exist already, large multinational companies that are operating in this area. Has that presence of those industries factored into sort of the growth of your businesses or other startups? And how is that collaboration? How does it look like?
I can hop in. We've flown so much to SF in New York City to talk to industry, and it's crazy because it's like there's so much right here. And I do think there's a piece of that connector that we don't quite have here yet, where we're at a stage where we're operating out of a lab. We're not making offtake agreements with these larger scale manufacturers. And a lot of those conversations do require a facilitator of some kind at this stage for startups. So it is crazy that we are going to these locations where there's somebody who's offering to plan this event with industry or coming to an event like this. But yeah, right now we're going a lot to other places, and there isn't really that connector that we've seen so far at this stage.
One example, so when I was looking at green hydrogen, I wanted to talk to Wolfspeed, local to the area. I thought it'd be really easy. It took over 5 calls to get to the right person. And so some of the big corporates are difficult to access, especially as a startup and as almost nobody. And so it's really difficult to be able to access that. The flip side is that when I see layoff announcements come, I pick up talent. So I have our process engineer comes from a layoff, and so there's talent in the area that brings those people here. Unfortunately, when there's layoffs, there's also opportunities at the same time.
Well, that concludes our time. Please join me in thanking our panelists today and offering their insights. So.